So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Moss, the founder and CEO of Parker Dewey. Really excited to have y'all join us for this quarter's State of Campus Recruiting. And I'm really excited about this quarter because I know I talked to a ton of employers and students, and we're hearing about how 2023 is yet another interesting year as the COVID hangover starts to end and more folks are returning to campus and excited about hiring needs, and students are excited to really explore and find those right jobs. So what we decided to do this quarter was invite Kelsey and Eric to join us to really share the perspective from what's taking place on the ground, from their conversations with employers and students, and really provide some great insights as to what's working this year, what isn't working, and not based upon us all thinking about it, but what they're actually hearing and seeing on the ground. So Kelsey, I'll let you introduce yourself first. If you could tell a little bit about yourself and your role at UNC, and then Eric will do that and then jump right in.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So good afternoon, everyone. It is 12 p.m. Eastern time here in North Carolina. So good afternoon. My name is Kelsey Williams, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Internships and Experiential Learning. And recently, I have been appointed as an overseer over our external relations team. So in my role, I have a lot of meetings with employers where I'm just asking them, what is the state for you right now when it comes to recruiting at UNC? How can we improve our partnership with you? At UNC, we have our main career center that's on campus, which is where I work, but we have a lot of other satellite offices in some of our other bigger name schools, like our journalism school, computer science. We have our business school in Honors Carolina. So career is really distributed across campus at UNC, but the Career Center where I work really serves as that main hub for career development. So it's an exciting time to be working at UNC. We recently hired on an assistant vice chancellor who's going to really be able to bring in a career model across UNC's campus. So there's a lot of things that are moving, but it's definitely an exciting time and grateful to be here.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Eric Borsche. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Employment and Internships at Dominican University, and I work in the Office of Career Programs and Employer Relations. I am one of 3 career development staff that we have in our office, so we kind of like silo off all 3 of us. So I primarily work with business students, and then my colleagues work with our STEM students and humanities. So each student from each one of those industries has a person to go to and kind of talk about internships and jobs, cover letters, resumes, all of those good things. Additionally, we have a career development curriculum that we've piloted in our College of Business since, I believe it was 2016. And now we're rolling that curriculum out university-wide beginning in academic year 24. So right now we have a whole lot on our plate and like what that's going to look like from a university standpoint. But in our current model with the College of Business, all of our students have one class each year that they're enrolled. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and those classes all build on each other about going over like resumes, informational interviews, mock interviews, getting an internship, and then putting it all together and getting that job and like negotiating salary packages and benefits and all of those things. So by the time our business students graduate, they have approximately 60 required visits with a career development professional to kind of help them move along on that goal. And we implemented that because we did a survey a number of years back, and the primary goal of our students coming to Dominican is to get a better job. So we kind of really leaned into that and help our students get those jobs.
That's awesome. And there's a lot of good points in both of your comments. I want to make sure we get through whether it's the difference between business students versus STEM or liberal arts. Eric, you talked about engaging students as early as freshman year. That's a key topic, and we'll get to that. One thing I have to say, though, and Eric, I think I mentioned this when we were talking beforehand, I do have a special place in my heart for Dominican University. When we launched Parker Dewey back in 2016, it was with the guidance of Dominican's former president, Donna Carroll, that we were brainstorming this idea. So when we first launched back then, Dominican was one of our first 3 partner schools, and we're now, I think, over 700. So Eric, just again, that soft spot for Dominican. UNC may be slightly different since I went to Indiana, and I think about some of the old basketball. No, I'm kidding, Kelsey. So let's get rolling. So again, COVID's over, things have returned back to pseudo normal. One of the questions we hear all the time is, how do you measure success? How do both of you think about success as far as your roles, and has that changed at all since COVID? Kelsey, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can go first. So, during COVID, I think we really were focused on maintaining and also being really adaptable with our approach with employer relations. Obviously, on campus visits were not really a thing, and we had to pretty much switch totally into a virtual world, trying to maintain those relationships with employers, but then also maintaining the connecting points that students had with employers to discover jobs, internships, other opportunities for career advancement. So now, coming out of the pandemic, we've gone back to having a lot of our on-campus recruitment activities, and we're hearing across the board from students that students also are looking for those in-person touch points. I think that our career fairs historically have been the biggest place where students are discovering jobs or internship opportunities and also networking with employers. But we're being a bit more creative in this past year in particular, just with finding other ways for students to have those connecting points. And I think really where we're finding a lot of movement is when it's in more casual, not as intimidating, smaller, more intimate type of engagement opportunities. So we rolled out something last fall called Industry Snack and Chats, and we've really seen it take off this year, where during the Industry Snack and Chats, we have employers come into our space in our career office. They have their table set up. They also have some free snacks for students. And it's more of like a drop-in style type of event, similar to a career fair, where students are able to come. They get to learn about the different opportunities that an employer might have. And what we're hearing from students is that in that smaller, more personalized environment, students are really able to get a better benefit in attending an event like that versus being in our career fair spaces. Sometimes, there's a lot of anxiety. You don't really know how you should dress. There's just a lot that is said without being said in those kind of environments. So we're really looking to be more creative with some of our other approaches. Another thing that I'd mention too are career treks. So historically, our office did not really have a career trek program, but that is something that we have really built out intentionally in these past couple of years. And we're seeing increasingly student organization leaders, faculty, and even departments are interested in working with our office to coordinate career treks locally in the RTP and even some out of state as well. So, and again, it just creates that opportunity for networking. Typically, there's an experiential learning component that's also included. So any ways that students can get that hands-on, I'm in person, I'm being able to engage. It's not as much of a high stakes type of environment like a career fair, but just other creative ways for students to engage. That's really where we're seeing a lot of our interest and attraction from students.
And are you measuring things like how many students are actually showing up to the career fair, how many employers, and are you seeing interesting trends in those things or participating in some of those other events?
Yeah, definitely. So when we compare it to these past couple of years, we are seeing more and more students attending our career fairs. We are seeing that compared to, the COVID days when it was virtual, as I've been looking at the data, increasingly over the years, our numbers were going down. So now as we've been bringing events back to campus, our numbers are finally they're starting to go up in the positive direction with employers and also with students. So this past fall was the first time that we had invited 100 employers to come to the career fair. In the past, it was around 50 that we were recruiting to come to fairs. And we had close to 800 students that came to the career fair with there being 100 employers. So,
That's
numbers are
awesome.
definitely going up in the right direction, which is good.
Yeah, the career fair is not dead. I know it's something Mary Scott's talked about a lot, and I think the trick is making sure it's a valuable experience for the learner and for the employer. Eric,
Mhm.
how about you? How do you think about measuring success at Dominican?
So, we have a couple different ways we do this. The first one that I know we're most proud of our employment outcome 3 months after graduation in our College of Business. has been greater than 77% for like the last 4 years. So our
Wow.
students are getting jobs at graduation. And this past year, we had the highest one ever. It's 78.5. So I think that reflects a lot on like our curriculum in the College of Business and how we set it up to prepare our students for that career readiness.
Can I interrupt with 1 second? Because
Yeah.
again, I think for a lot of folks, like I hear that number and I'm blown away, but partially because I know, like, can you talk a little bit about the student makeup and the student population?
Yes, so our student population, we're a Hispanic serving institution, and I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's close to 70% of our university is first gen Hispanic students. And a lot of our students, like I applaud their work ethic. They're doing 16 to 18 credit hours a semester. They have a full-time job. And we also have a required internship kind of built into that. Like I said, I'm kind of focusing on the College of Business now because that's where I work and that's where we piloted this. But like our students have full-time jobs and we also have a required internship. So before our students graduate, they have to do 80 hours of internship with an employer that is in their field, has experience in the field, all those NACE core competencies that they have to match to. So our students do that, and they also take the internship course simultaneously with their internship. And that course is designed as just kind of like a check-in. So it's not very coursework heavy. It's more of like, I'm here as a resource. Let's all talk about our internships. Let's learn from each other, kind of go through some scenarios that can come up at your internship, like how to extend your internship, how to turn it into full-time offers. So we discuss a lot of that in there. So that's like our one metric of success that I really wanted to touch on. But our career development curriculum is set up in a cohort model. So the 100, 200, 300, and 400 level classes all meet on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at the same time. And we have employer virtual visits 3 times a semester. So an employer can come once, hit all 4 classes, and get around 75 students in each class every time they come, and it's for freshmen to seniors. So the employers know that, so they're kind of talking a little bit about the industry, the types of roles they have, what they do to kind of help the students understand. And then for more of the juniors and seniors, towards the end, they kind of start talking about those internships, full-time opportunities. But it's a great way for our students to become familiar with our employers. So as they come back to the career fair, our students already have like some background knowledge. They get to know the recruiters a little bit, and it kind of helps build those connections. So as they go through their career fair and talk to the employers, they can expand those internship opportunities from freshman to senior year.
I want to, first of all, that 70, I lost the exact number, the 78%, just by comparison, the last stat I saw was of all recent college grads, 47% were under or unemployed. The fact that you're sitting here, especially when you look at the makeup and the level of diversity at sort of just over 20, like that's incredible. Huge kudos to you in the program. Sorry to fanboy out a little bit.
No, thank you.
There was also something you both brought up that I want to hit on. One of the things that we've been hearing a lot from the students, and it sounds like the same, is the importance of exploration earlier in the process and lower stakes, lower risk ways of starting to explore. Do I want to be in financial services versus consumer packaged goods versus tech? Do I want to be at a big company or small company? Do I want to work at a company whose brand name I never heard of before? Or I know I want to do marketing, but do I want to do marketing analytics versus content creation? How important is that career exploration process? And what are you seeing the employers really do to encourage it and support it? And Eric, maybe we'll start with you this time.
So in our early career development classes, we have a lot of that career exploration. We have like the focus test, the Clifton strengths, kind of get an idea of like what you're good at, why you want to do this. And we like start having those conversations early. We also have a team of experts and executives and residents. I think it's around 12, and they're all retired, semi-retired, C-suite level professionals with like 25 years industry experience. And they're on campus somewhere between like 8 to 12 hours a week, and students can make appointments with them. So we have one for pretty much every industry on campus, and they can just meet with them and get an idea. Because like we have like a CFO or a former CFO here, like our finance students, like, oh, I want to get into this and talk about finance. And then after they have those conversations, like, oh, maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted to do. Maybe it's more accounting. And there's like a lot of time to like bounce around and get an idea of what you want to do. And because we have that required internship, and we've been doing this like for almost 8 years now in the College of Business, like our students they know they have to do one, but I'm pushing 2, 3, 4, because you might have an internship in marketing. That's what you've always wanted to do. And now that you're doing it, you're kind of like, oh, whoa, this isn't exactly what I was expecting it to be. Maybe I don't want to do marketing at all. Maybe I want to do more of the analytics side. So that's why I always encourage students to do more. And now our freshmen and sophomore are trying to get in and like trying to get these opportunities, but like they don't necessarily have enough like coursework or experience to get these internships. And that's where I'm starting to turn them towards Parker Dewey, because Parker Dewey has a lot of these like entry level positions. I mean, if it's just basic like bookkeeping, a little bit of social media marketing and things like that they can apply for and start getting 5 to 20 hours experience, just like dip their toes in the water, if you will, and see if this is something you want to do. But it's also great to build their resume. So it's kind of a win-win for our students to start building some of that experience and figuring out where they want to go, because not every career path is linear. I mean, more and more people aren't just going in from like assistant manager to senior manager to director and like this linear path. They're kind of bouncing around. And I know in my own personal experience, I graduated in 2009. I was going to be a financial analyst, and then the banks really weren't having that anymore, and I had to kind of reset my career, and then my path went a lot like this. And it's kind of letting students know that you don't have to get that job in marketing and stay in marketing. Go ahead and explore, see what you like, what you don't like, and then eventually you'll kind of find out where you want to land.
That's really good. I'll add too that, for us, career exploration is something that is necessary, but we are trying to have our students see all the different ways that that looks like. So we recently brought in People Grove to administer what's called Heels Engage, which is an online platform for students to be able to connect with alum, and for them to, through mentorship type of relationships, they're able to also explore careers that way. Again, in more of a lower stakes, comfortable, I'm speaking with someone that is also a Tar Heel. Tell me, how I can make the most of my major. And so even in our office, we launched a mentorship program, and just provided a bit more structure to those conversations, but really left it open for students to be able to engage and connect with other alum that just align with a lot of their career goals and their values. And I
And
just want to say, oh, go ahead, go
oh
ahead.
no, please go ahead, Kelsey.
Well, so that's one way with career exploration. But the way that our office breaks down, your path to career success is, we call it your 4 steps to career success. So when you're starting off as a freshman, that's when you're in step 1. And like what you were saying, Eric, we also really encourage students to do, focus 2, to just think more internally about what your strengths are, what are your interests, what are your career values, and then from there start exploring and seeing, what's possible. And what we rolled out this fall that was really transformative was a case study competition, but we found an employer that was able to create a case where any student would be able to take advantage of this opportunity. And we left it open to freshmen, and across the board, all the freshmen who participated said this was such a great learning experience. And we also matched students with each other. So students were working with majors that, they maybe would have never crossed paths, because UNC's campus is so big. So we were also giving students just that experience of working together as a team, learning how to use one another's strengths to put together a presentation. And it was so powerful to just hear them talking about how important this was for their own career path and their own journey. Because some students were saying, I would have never thought of doing something like this because I'm a chemistry major, but how fun was it to practice my communication skills and to present something like this? I mean, it was so impactful.
Well, I mean, you're hitting on so many things. I mean, that career exploration and helping students understand the skills that they're developing, even if their majors don't sound like job titles, and thinking through, like, it's awesome. A couple of things though. I mean, Kelsey, one of the things you brought up was engagement of the alumni. I do have to give a shout out to Swarthmore University. Like, Swarthmore has done a great job, because one of the things they found, I think like a lot of schools, is they're trying to get students and alumni to engage, but the conversations sometimes feel a little bit stilted or awkward because there's no catalyst for conversation beyond the fact that we both went to the same school. And what Swarthmore did was they're actually having alumni. They have a program called SWATworks where alumni are actually giving micro internships to current students. And they're using those discrete projects as that catalyst for engagement. And whether it's Jeffrey engaging with Kelsey, the alum that he's doing the project for, or reaching out to Eric, who's also an alum, just to pick Eric's brain. Something else you said was the importance of the freshmen. And I think back to, again, my summer internship at Coopers and Library, and realizing the first week I didn't want to be a public accountant, and that being the only data point. One of the things, I think, Kelsey, you shared this with me, is the students are going to the career fair freshman year, sophomore year to try to learn about companies. What are the employers actually telling them when they're doing that, and what suggestions would you have for the employers? Sorry to put you a little bit on the spot.
Yeah. So looking at our data from last fall, it was a bit of a mix because there were some employers that were saying they were impressed meeting some freshman students and that they were prepared, they knew about their company, they were excited to engage. And then there were some that seemed a bit surprised that there were a good amount of first year students that were coming to their table. But when an employer doesn't have opportunities for that freshman student, I think then the student ends up leaving not really knowing, was this an opportunity for me? Should I have been here? There's kind of that sense of feeling like they didn't quite belong. And so my recommendation to employers would be, even if it is just having that preliminary conversation, letting them know, here are different career opportunities that we have in our company. It's great that you are here because it's showing that you're engaged and that you are just open to exploring and seeing what's out there and what companies are connected to UNC already. I think just engaging with them in that way, just meeting them where they're at, asking them questions about, what classes are sending out to them right now. I would just want to encourage any recruiter not to feel like conversations with freshmen are a waste of time, but to see if there is that interest, because that could also be where a micro internship could be born. Especially at UNC, students are so hungry for any opportunity that will help them grow and develop. Because we have a lot of students that come in, especially thinking about being business students, and it's a very competitive application process. And so that's why we really encourage a lot of them to do micro internships and to do our certificate programs, because it adds something a bit more to your resume, showing that, you have prepared yourself adequately for this next step. And so even just gauging as an employer to see, is this student actually looking for something? Can we make a project happen with this? And working with career services as well to be able to provide more structure with that, or helping to, train or prepare the student for the experience. I think it just can open up so many more doors for experiential learning for our students.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things I'm always shocked about. The students will say, a freshman or sophomore, I go to the career fair booth, I talk with the company, and the response is, come back next year. Give me your email, come back next year. And they lose that connection, which seems like kind of a waste for those companies, especially since we're hearing from so many employers they want to get to know students earlier, freshman, sophomore year, to start building that employer brand. But then you tell a student the only thing you really have is, again, send the resume, we'll communicate with you, and we'll see you next year. Eric, it looks like you want to jump in.
Yeah, so Kelsey and I had very similar career fairs this fall. Like, we set out a guide to our students. Like, if you're a freshman, like, these are some things you should talk to with employers, sophomore, junior, senior. So like, we had like a quick 4-paragraph guide we just gave to our students to help them prepare for the career fair. But what we didn't do is do anything for our employers. So we prepared our freshmen to go talk to employers, but our employers were like, kind of that, well, you're not qualified, we don't have anything for you, and then like kind of just, dismiss them almost. So going into the spring, we're going to work a little bit more with our employers to prepare them to have those conversations, because we had 3 accounting firms come to our career fair. And right now, I believe we have 32 students that are about eligible for internships, and like 32 of those students already had internships. So those employers, like, I can't believe like I didn't have anybody here. Like I had 4 internships open and I didn't get any students that were like super excited or wanted to apply. And it's like, well, those students already got their internship for the spring like 3 months before this fair. So that's where it'd be more beneficial for them to talk to the sophomore and freshman and like start building those connections and get them more ready, kind of like poach them early. So when they do have those skill sets to like begin applying, because one of our employers, I can't remember which one it is already hiring for 2026 internships. Like they are so far ahead because they know the pipeline is narrow and there's not that many accounting students. And our accounting students right now for a paid internship are averaging $29 to $35 an hour, which is like the highest paid by far on campus. And our students are turning down opportunities at $29. Like, oh, well, I can make 33. Like they don't even have to try that hard to get them because they're in such high demand. So I think it
I
is
might sign up.
beneficial for those. I know I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, I should have gone into accounting, and I might still have an opportunity to do that too. But I think it's beneficial for those employers to start early with those freshmen and sophomore and like incorporating that. Or if they don't have like those full-time internship opportunities, maybe start looking at these micro internships or kind of externships to get these students in the door, get them familiar with their brand, get them experience in their company, even if it's just a little bit. So then they're more prepared to come in their junior, senior year when they have more of that foundation and they're ready to go.
Well, Allison Keefe from Smith Nephew talked about something on another session we were doing where she was going to the NSBE Career Fair, and one of the things they offered at the booth for only the people who visited the booth at NSBE, they had an opportunity to apply to a series of very specialized micro internships that were only being available. And they marketed that before the career fair and at the career fair. And what it did was drive this incredible level of the interest of the students. And this was for a company most college students hadn't heard of. Smith Nephew, a global medical device company. But again, most college students, unless you're in that very specific space, you didn't know. And meanwhile, they had lines of students who were interested because they were giving students what they actually wanted, real experiences. So anyway, just another idea as you're talking with the employers and for any of the employers on here. I want to build upon what you just said, Eric, or Kelsey, were you about to jump in? I'm sorry.
Well, I guess one last thing that I want to say too, because I do hear a lot of our students saying that they follow up with the recruiter and then the recruiter does not follow back up with them. So especially for our first year students who are being introduced to the world of work, and they have a lot of exposure of what it's like to work in certain industries just because of what social media says or because of what their friends have said that are in different corporate or finance roles and those kind of things. And I just want to add another plug again for the career treks, because taking the student physically to that space, and we left it open, freshmen, sophomores, whoever wants to come, for them to actually get to experience what it's like to work there, that changed their mindset that they're already developing based on the word of mouth that they're receiving from social media, from their friends, from family members. So I think even just in those small ways as a recruiter, if you can just say, yes, it was great meeting you, stay in touch, then that puts the ball back in the student's court for them to continue that relationship and for them to attend information sessions and industry snack and chats, other events that are going on campus, and the student can be intentional about keeping up with those connections. But I think responding, I just wish that more of our employers would, and some of them do, right? Like we have really good employer partners, but there are other ones where I think there's, just to make sure that you are responding back, just to say, yes, agreed, it was great meeting you, let's stay in touch. That's just something quick and easy, but it really will go a long way for our students as they're framing what the world of work is really like.
No, and I agree. It's again, the employers and the campus recruiters talk about the fact in some cases they're getting thousands of the applications and it's hard to sometimes respond to each one. But if someone's taking the time to send a personal email, again, to your point, it goes a long way. I want to hit on this career trek idea. When you're doing that, Kelsey, is it for a specific industry or is it more of a survey across different industries? I'm just, again, more curious.
Yeah, so a lot of schools and even, career offices at UNC do it differently. But the way that we do it is that we work as collaborators with either a student organization, faculty members, or staff. And they come to us saying our students are looking for a career track in this industry or at this company, or where they would be able to engage with a certain audience. So for example, recently we went to Relias and I was working with their recruiter to be able to identify, folks that worked in marketing because I was working with the Department of Communications. So that was a very specific area where those students had that interest. They wanted to learn more about those kinds of roles. But even more recently, we went to Care Yaya, and they're a startup company that is in the RTP area. So students saw that you could do marketing, you could work more hands-on with the healthcare, you could do something that's more data analytics, you could do something more technology. So some of the students that were like, I'm only interested in healthcare, then they were like, oh, I could kind of do a bit
Well,
of everything and I have all of these interests. So this really works out.
no, and I'm happy because, again, I think about career treks and I think about at my alma mater, Indiana. There's ones that are just very specialized, very much geared towards juniors and seniors. But again, one of the themes that keeps on coming up from this conversation is the importance of exploration, hitting the students before they've already made up their mind as they're starting to figure out whether it's selecting a major, industry, et cetera. I think that's great, and I think there's probably more opportunity to build upon what you've done. Um, Eric, I want to jump to you. We're talking a lot about the student desires and what they want. What are you hearing from the employers this year? Are they like, what kind of feedback are you getting about their ability to engage students or get through how's this year going on the ground from their perspective?
I mean, the employers I talk to are pretty happy with what they've got. We've had a few that have had to like trim down their internship offerings because of, economy-based things, which has been a little tough. A couple of our bigger employers surprisingly pulled like their whole co-op program for next summer that we had some students interested in. So that was a bit of a bummer, but we've been able to fill just about every position that has come to me. So I have recruiters reach out directly to me. I have the ones that I'm regularly working with. And what I'm currently doing and trying to help out all parties involved is get like a recruiting schedule built out. So like our students know that if, like Wintrust is going to be recruiting in September and October for their summer internship program, then we can start letting students know over the summer, hey, let's polish up your resume. Let's get you ready to go to start filling those. And trying to get more and more of our employers like on like this kind of set schedule that we can kind of publish for our students so they can see who's recruiting when, what they're recruiting for, how many positions they're likely going to have. And that way all of our students know and they can come in prepared, they can see what's coming, they can see the ones they want to target like ahead of time. And then our employers know that they're going to be able to get the students when they need them. Because I do have some smaller employers that come to me like a week ago, hey, I need 3 accountants yesterday. What can you do for me? And I'm like, well, I can see what I can do. I can send out like our newsletter. I can send out direct messages, if it's kind of an urgent hire to kind of get those spots filled. And we do the best that we can for our employer partners. But I feel like I kind of got off on a tangent. I forgot your original question.
No, it was just
Yeah.
about employers, like, again, feedback. Because, again, one of the things we hear is students aren't opening the emails, or
Mhm.
if my brand is not Google, I'm not getting enough attendance at the career fit. I'd love to hear, because, again, I hear this directly from the employers. Like, is that consistent, correct? Is there more variance?
So yes, like the big names like the Deloitte, I'm gonna pick on accounting, like Deloitte, EY, all of those. The students that know about those, that want to work for those, are like gonna apply for those. The students that are kind of like still figuring it out, or like, well, do I really want to be an accountant? Maybe I don't want to go all the way to that one. They kind of tend to go to like the smaller local accounting firms. And like I said, a lot of our students are like first gen. And a lot of their families own their own businesses. So a lot of our students don't necessarily want like the big glory corporate job. They just want to get that hands-on personal touch. And it's a little easier to pair them with like the local businesses where they can have a lot more of that like one-on-one development and learning these skills and then how to like take those skills and apply them to like their family's business and things like that. So we do kind of have a mix. It's not just like, Google's here, everyone wants Google. I mean, the Chicago Cubs, I mean, we are located in Chicago. Everyone kind of wanted to work for the Cubs. That was maybe that one-off that they saw the Cubs show up to our career fair and their booth was just kind of blown out. But for the ones like industry specific related, it's pretty mixed bag.
Well, and on that, I mean, it's shocking to me. Again, I'm a little biased being in Chicago, but like I hear from Chicago companies complaining they can't get enough applicants or they can't hire enough college students. And my question is like, why aren't you going to Dominican? They're 10 miles west of the city because they're only recruiting at the 2 colleges in town, or 3 colleges that are actually downtown. They don't realize it.
Well,
And then again, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we purposely keep our career fair small. So we've capped our career fair now at 30 employers. So like our students have a little more time to like prepare for the ones that are there and they have like a little more of that personal touch. In the past, we did like 50 plus, but it was just harder to get more connections. We found like this, if we cap it smaller, we can get a lot more of those like direct connections from students to employers. The students can like see like the shortened list, like, oh, there's only 3 accounting firms, there's 1 finance or like 2 marketing, and they can just focus on those and talk to those and build out those relationships. And a lot of our career fair attendees do a lot of the other events we have throughout the semester built into our curriculum, like the employer virtual visits. We have informational interviews, mock interviews. So our employers are really working with our students and they're getting to know our student population really well. And they want to just keep recruiting. I mean, we haven't recently, I mean, we don't have like 100 that are trying to get into our career fair and we just like take 30. So we're not quite that big yet, but we did get a fancy new mat for the gym. So we are going to have a bigger space. So I can definitely see us expanding that out a little bit more in the future, maybe getting to like 40-ish in the spring and start building that out because we do have, I mean, a little biased, but we have very high quality students that are prepared to work and can have those conversations with employers and are ready to jump right in. So
Yeah, well, and also I have to, again, another shout out. Associate Colleges of Illinois is doing some really interesting things to help more of the local Illinois businesses realize the opportunity to recruit at schools like Dominican that are, again, smaller and not necessarily as well known. But to your point, to recognize there's great talent, as you said. Kelsey, I mean, UNC, I think of very much as, again, massive institution. Like, what are you hearing from the employers about recruiting the students, or like what's working, what's not, what kind of feedback are you getting directly from them?
Yeah, so from employers, I think that one of the challenges that some of our employers face is that because we do have multiple career offices on campus, sometimes the question of, where am I supposed to go comes up. So, you may have roles that will apply for a computer science major and also a communications major. But so trying to figure out, which events that you want to go to, which recruiter should you be speaking, or not recruiter, but which staff member should you be speaking with, whether it's staff that's in computer science or staff that's in career services. So I think some of that is what we're hearing from a lot of our employers right now, is just trying to navigate, because UNC is so big and we are a decentralized campus. So just trying to help them figure out, which person they should speak with. And I think what's helpful is when folks do start with us, then we are able to, forward them to the right person that they need to get in contact with. But I would say, just in terms of, other events or other things that we have going on, I think across the board, our employer partners do have good experiences when they come to UNC. I think that on average, we hear a lot of employers saying that they were able to get a good amount of student traction, that students were knowledgeable of their, of their company and those kind of things. So a lot of that information is on Handshake. We do our pre-fair events. So I think across the board, UNC students are prepared and ready to go. So yeah, that's what I would say for us.
Yeah, Kelsey, one thing you reminded me of is like working with those employers, and it's sometimes managing expectations with the employers because they'll come in like, oh, I need a 3.5 GPA, I need these 3 accounting classes, and they need to have 2 internships already. And it's like, okay, I hear you, that would be great. We might have 1 or 2 students here that can maybe fit that. And it's just kind of like reevaluating that. And some are like very like, I need a junior or senior. I'm like, well, they're already in internships. Like, why don't we take a look at the sophomores? Like, I know our sophomores prepared. They've had another internship opportunity. Some of them have done these micro internship opportunities. So I think it's kind of getting away from that traditional, only like juniors, seniors can do an internship. And it's like, yes, but I think it's also worth exploring other options. And to touch back to the micro internships, like we do have a nursing program and like a STEM program, and like their internships and like education, like their internships are going to be like student teaching and their practicums. However, like we can use Parker Dewey to help those students earlier in their career. Like there's a lot of like project management on there. There's some like communication internships, just kind of like getting more of that foundation that you can kind of put on your resume. It's going to help you regardless of your career path. So that's just one other thing I wanted to add.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kelsey.
No, I just think,
Oh, sorry. Again, I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words about the micro internships. You bring up something, and Eric, you said it, I think, point blank before. You were talking about the NACE core competencies. Again, the communication, problem solving, coachability, but then you also highlighted that there's so many employers that are still focused on, again, certain GPA, certain major. Specific advice you would get, like how are you helping the employers almost break down those traditional focus on academic pedigree, we'll call it. You go to a certain school, you have a certain major, a certain GPA, versus more of that evaluation of those NACE core competencies. Like, are there suggestions you have for employers around that?
I mean, the only suggestions I would have would be just a little bit more open, because a lot of students today have some pretty solid skills like that they've either learned like in LinkedIn Learning or through social media or like even TikTok sometimes. Like they can pick up some of like these skills that they're not necessarily going to write on their resume or know how to write on their resume. So just like kind of opening the doors a little bit more and taking away some of those like hard lines. I mean, in some cases, like it's a necessity. It's like, oh, I need 3 interns that have a 3.5 or higher and are this major and are a second semester junior. And it's like, well, I can't help you. I'm sorry, I don't have a student that can help you. So now we're going to have to kind of work together. But if they come into that conversation just a little bit more open, willing to take a look at like a sophomore resume, like even second semester sophomore, they might have had that like accounting 250 class that's maybe just enough that they're coachable, but not like enough to jump right in. If you're willing to kind of bridge that gap, we can kind of start filling those roles a little bit easier. So just being a little bit more flexible when you're writing those job descriptions for internships.
Well, and that's really, oh no,
oh,
please, Kelsey.
Well, I just want to jump in really quickly because I liked how you were highlighting, Eric, that these students are having, in their classroom experiences, they're also gaining a lot of skills that maybe they wouldn't just put on their resume because it's a part of their class, right? And that's not always as intuitive. But when they then go to do a project in an internship or even a part-time job, that's when some of those skills actually get to come up and shine. So I think just wanting to only hire on certain majors or that, like how you said, you have to have a certain GPA, I think that in an indirect way, an employer could end up not getting the right kind of candidate that they're really looking for. Just because, when you do leave things a bit more broad and open, that's really where you do get those students that may not have the most competitive GPA, but they have been doing these different work experiences, or they are doing what they need to do to be able to compete with the rest of their class. So I definitely wanted to echo that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are definitely certain roles. Like, again, if you want to work as a CPA, you need to be an accounting major. I completely get that. Do you need is there a difference between a 3.4 GPA and a 3.5 and a 3.6? Probably not. So break that down. But also for the vast majority of roles, it doesn't matter whether you're a marketing major or communication major or history major. And it's, Kelsey, I think to your point, looking at the actual skills. I need someone that can write, can communicate effectively, can problem solve. That's true whether you're a philosophy major or a marketing major. And I think one of the suggestions, at least I would make to the colleges and universities and other educators here, is there's huge opportunities to help the students better appreciate those skills, better appreciate and communicate on their resume how they demonstrated problem solving, whether it's in a classroom environment, through a summer job, through a micro internship, through a co-op, whatever that experience is, because that makes the difference between a great hire and not. Every accounting student knows GAAP. Not all of them have the same level of communication or problem solving, and it has nothing to do with GPA, in my humble opinion. We got I want to hit one thing really quickly. We were talking about the difference between the business school majors and then some of the other programs. Any key insights either of you want to share with the audience around that, beyond the fact that, again, major doesn't always matter, or any big differences that you think would be worthwhile to share?
So we recently started a partnership with some local small businesses, and we have this social media consulting that we're doing. So we're currently working with 5 businesses, or paired one-to-one with students, to help improve their website, create some posts for them, kind of like set them up for success, and then leave them with a manual after the 8 weeks. So then these businesses kind of have an idea of like how to run their website, how to get more people in, how to use social media to kind of benefit from that. And at first I was like, all right, well, I need 5 social media marketing majors, like, and this is only 5 this semester, and next semester it's going to be 10. And like, that's kind of like a big ask to fill these roles in a fairly short period of time. So, I mean, I was just kind of looking at our student population, and a lot of them in their free time, they do TikTok, they do Instagram, they have a website. Like, one of the students I talked to was an art major and had 1 million views on TikTok and wanted to kind of do this as a possibility. So like, we went through and like interviewed and talked to the students, and like, he ultimately got hired and paired with one of these employers. And it's like, he didn't really like consider this from the beginning, but like, his art has been able to help with the website design, and the fact that he already knows how to use TikTok is able to help do that. So like, he's paired really well with this employer. And then we had a psychology student, same thing, come in like, well, I was interested in marketing, I would kind of do this. We interview them. She knows all about why people make these decisions, and she's like changing the colors of the website to influence buying and working with this. So it's like kind of amazing when you like really look at your student population and what they can do across the board, and like, their skill sets are pretty amazing and remarkable on what they can do. And if you open up these opportunities, that's why I'm kind of big on like getting rid of like these strict guidelines. Like, you must be a marketing major to do this. Well, not really. Like, our psychology majors are knocking it out of the park. So it's like, if you're willing and open to different majors, as long as the student has interest, because if they have interest and they're already kind of doing it on the side or whatever, they're going to be very coachable, teachable, and be able to work with you and help grow your business in ways you didn't really think possible. So,
I mean, the hot term on the talent acquisition side is skills-based hiring. I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about, is skills-based hiring. And by using these real experiences to actually assess the skills, that sort of solves it. Kelsey, was there something you were going to add to that?
Yeah, I was even thinking, even from my perspective, like, I was hired on for a certain role, and I have worn so many different hats in my current role, and it has made me so much more a well-rounded individual. I have more skills than I had before I started in this job, and I'll continue to keep building my portfolio. And I'm sure everyone on this call could say the same, that you started off with one job description, and now things have evolved and changed. And I think that that's what we want. I mean, I think that's what people need, to keep things interesting, and for things not to become mundane, and for you to start looking elsewhere. So I think that just really humanizing the job experience as well, and realizing that we have the opportunity to shape the way that this next generation will think about work broadly, like what I was saying earlier. I think that that is a really empowering thought. So even as you're crafting job descriptions and you're saying, okay, who do I need in this role? Like how we've been saying, focusing more on the skills aspect so that if a student is in a certain major, they don't think that they're already at a deficit, because maybe they would want to work in your company and they would be such a great qualified candidate, but because they don't match the description exactly to the T, then they wouldn't want to apply. So I think just even framing it in that way of, how do you want your talent to continue to improve your company and the functions of your company, and what direction are you all going in, and what members of society do we also want to be producing? So even just look at it that way, I think is really empowering.
Yeah, Kelsey,
Oh,
that was a really great point about the job descriptions and like how they're written. Because like students will see them and it's like, oh, if I don't have 1 through 10, I can't apply. So
Hmm.
like if maybe even shortening them or making them more broad, then the students are like, oh, I could do this, and it makes it a little easier for them to even like take that chance. Because there could be so many students that would be perfect for that role, but they see it and like, oh, like I don't have that one thing. I'm not going to waste my time in applying. So just making them a little broad and open, I think would be very beneficial.
so, and that's a great segue to one of the questions that came in beforehand from one of the employers that was asking, and again, I'm going to paraphrase, basically, how do I get through the noise? If I have a company brand that students haven't heard of, or even a brand that students have heard of, I've heard of Nike, but I'm not thinking about Nike for an IT role. How can I get through that noise to get the student to want to apply, to want to engage? What suggestions would you have for the employers?
I mean, I would, if you're not already connected to the career office on that college campus, I would definitely recommend getting connected, because some folks, some offices may just say, oh, post on Handshake and then that's it. But I think a career office that wants to have an intentional relationship with you will say, well, here's some other options. For example, doing a micro internship and letting the career office know so that then we can promote that micro internship through a newsletter or on our website or just other platforms or on our social media where students are going to see it. If it is, doing a career check, like how I've been saying, then that's another way for someone to come to your company, getting to engage with you in person and just seeing, what it's like to work at your site. And then that gives them an idea of maybe what the internship could be like as well. So there just are a lot of, or industry snack and chats, other smaller sized events where, it's lower stakes. Students can just pop in, chat with you and see, yeah, what you have to offer. I think that being creative with the career services team is important. And I do see Jennifer asking who pays for the career treks. So the way that our model is right now is that our office will sponsor the transportation to go to the location. And it's free for students to be able to participate. It's also free for our employers as well. The only thing that I ask whenever I'm meeting with the employers is that they would offer to sponsor maybe like some snacks, or even if it's just beverages or something, just so that the students have something to munch on as either listening to an information session. But it's pretty much free. So it's a really great opportunity for the employers who would showcase what they have, and then for students to get that career exposure and networking.
Can you have them send me some tea to drink? No, I'm kidding. Eric,
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey hit it on the head. Just kind of reach out to our office, because every employer, first time they reach out, it'll go through like the generic email, like careers at Dom. It'll kind of filter down to me or the director of employer relations. And then we typically set up like a 5 to 10 minute meeting to learn a little bit about your business, what you're looking for, and how we can help you. And we also ask like how you can help us. Do you want to be a part of our informational interviews? Do you want to be a part of our mock interviews? Because the more you do these things, the more our students are going to get to recognize like your name, your brand, what you
yeah.
do, and then it's a lot easier for you to come in and begin recruiting. So it's kind of like, the hand helping the other hand. So it's like we're always going to work. I can get your internships out there, but if you start working with our students, it'll be less like recruiting and trying to fill these needs and more of you being able to kind of like pick and choose and get the students that you want for your positions. So
And what I love about both of your points is that none of the ideas you presented require massive investments. These are not $100,000 or even $20,000 checks, because we're hearing from a lot of employers that for the smaller employers, they can't afford to write those checks. And for the bigger ones, they're questioning, am I really getting an ROI from spending the $100,000 subscription on whatever, or the 200, like, and what I love is your ideas are actionable. And I think, again, my takeaway is collaboration with the Career Center. You guys are motivated to want to help them because it helps the students and the employers. We're running out of time, so we have about 4 minutes. I'm trying to hit some of the hot topics. We got a lot of questions beforehand about the role of social media as companies and employers are trying to think through best practices to engage with students. We'll do this as a speed round. Quick suggestions, if any. Kelsey, we'll start with you since I know you mentioned social before for a minute.
So the question is how an employer can use social media to
Are there
attract.
are there opportunities for employers to leverage social media and what's quote unquote right? Or are your students using social media to find opportunities, I guess would be the other way to think about it.
I mean, yes, so students are using social media to find opportunities. I think that a better way to leverage social media is in tagging or collaborating with other folks whenever you're doing the post. So if you're posting and you want your post to be seen by UNC students, for example, you could tag our career office and then we can reshare it. Or if you are looking for a certain kind of demographic, you could always make sure to have those connections with student organization leaders and then they can repost it. And our office can also support with that as well. If you're looking for certain demographics, I think it's just about, again, that collaborating and making sure that we're all resharing it, because social media can get so cluttered so to where, it's hard to see something at the top of your feed. So the more folks that you have sharing it, the more visible it'll be.
Eric, social media.
I personally, our office doesn't do a lot with social media, and the fact that our team is like 3 people and we have a lot on our plates as it is. I know that's something we are focusing on in the future. So I would say just email like careers@dom and we can help your business get out there and promote it to our student population.
Great. Next question that came up a ton is first destination surveys, best practices, suggestions to actually get the data.
I'll start with that. That is a very hot topic here because like I get all of our survey data by stalking our students' LinkedIn for 3 straight months after they graduate. And it would be much easier if we had that survey, and we're trying to figure out the best way to incorporate it, and putting it as like a 0 credit hour class. Like you have to complete your LinkedIn, a quick survey, and then add like your personal email that we can reach out to you. So if you don't have a job, I can actively help you find a job even after graduation. And that way we have all that information and they need it to get like their cap and gown, like a very like 0 hour class. We're still trying to work out what those details look like, but that is something that will save me a whole lot of time going forward. Because right now, I mean, all of our students have to do a LinkedIn profile for one of their classes. So we do have that, but it's just stalking and waiting to see if they even updated or didn't update it and then getting a hold of them. It's been kind of a task that needs to be improved on our end. But yes, a first destination survey should be happening this spring.
Yeah, I
Parker
would
Dewey
agree with
actually
you.
uses, I'm sorry, real quick. Parker Dewey actually uses micro interns to stalk LinkedIn profiles for some of our own FTS data. So I'm right there with you
Yeah.
because in the early days, I used to be the LinkedIn stalker. Sorry, go ahead, Kelsey.
No, I was gonna say I'm right there with both of you as well. In our office, we've been using a third party through Embark, so I've been using their services to help put everything together. But this year we're gonna roll out, or I guess next year, it'll be through Handshake that we do the FDS survey. So things are gonna be changing, and then also with our new assistant vice chancellor, the goal would be to also provide, just more of that cross collaboration with departments and also with the other career offices that are on campus, just making sure that all data is being funneled into the same place, because there have been people doing a lot of different things in different spaces. So yeah, so that's coming soon.
Awesome. Well, I know we're hitting noon central and I'm going to get hangry if I don't have lunch. No, I'm just kidding. This has been incredible. Kelsey and Eric, we did not get to all the questions. So for the audience, I'm so sorry. We'll try to answer some of them in a follow-up email. So We'll summarize the conversation, share some of the key takeaways we had. We'll try to answer some of the questions that we didn't get to, include some of the links that were shared in the chat and other places. But Kelsey and Eric, I mean, thank you both so much. I mean, I know we didn't cover some of the areas that we talked about beforehand, but this conversation was just amazing. You guys are incredible partners. Your schools, your students, the faculty members at your programs and really communities should just be so thankful to have you as just such powerful advocates for the employers and students and for everyone in the session, in the audience. Thanks for the thoughtful questions, comments, chat notes. I know the Parker Dewey team is always happy to be supportive however we can. You can always email me personally. I am at creativelyjeffrey@parkerdewey.com. For folks that don't have my info, I love this stuff. Obviously, everyone here does. So anything we can do to be helpful, please let me know. And again, Eric and Kelsey, just such a pleasure. Thank you guys both so
Yes.
much.
Yes, thank you, Jeffrey.
Yes,
And
thank
everyone,
you.
and anyone who sees my daughter today, wish her a happy 16th, in case
Yes.
anyone's in Chicago. Have a great rest of the day and rest of the week, everyone. Thank you again for everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye. Good to
you.
see you again.